every generation, there are those who believe in the power of growth. Those who will take the steps that God has called them to take. Ones who see the potential where others see obstacles. And they build where others hesitate. Building a foundation begins with a vision, a God-given dream that stirs our hearts and compels us into action. When God calls us to more, He invites us to be part of creating something eternal that stands strong through every challenge and shines as a testament to His faithfulness. Becoming a builder in God's kingdom means taking that first step of faith, leading by example, and inspiring others to join the journey. It's about more than just construction. It's about building a legacy. If not us, then who? The time is now to believe, to build, and to become. Together, we can shape the future. One brick, one seed, one act of faith at a time.
It is so good to start the week with you. If we have not met yet, my name is Tom, and I'm the pastor here at People's Church. A special welcome if this is one of your very first times with us. We know it's a big deal to take a step of faith into a church community. Sometimes maybe you're sitting in the church and a person gets up with a microphone and you think, oh, that guy has everything figured out. I'm here to tell you that is certainly not the case. Rather, we are on this journey together, opening the Word together. We read the Word together, and we're on this journey of pursuing Jesus in community. Like many of you in this room, I had an encounter with Jesus that changed my life. For me, that happened when I was 23 years old. I had my first job out of college. It was in Rochester, Minnesota. A coworker invited me to church. It was in that gathering that the pastor gave an invitation to give your life to Christ. I gave my life to Christ, and it forever changed my trajectory, both present and for eternity. Now I'm a husband, I'm a dad, wanting to get things right and honor God with the way that I serve as the pastor of this church, wanting to honor God and get things right as I'm a husband to Jennifer and as we're raising our 4 kids. This week, I was struck by this quote from Pastor and Professor Vodi Bakum, who says, in the New Testament church, a man's home was his resume. In the New Testament church, a man's home was his resume. And you know what? We're still in the season of history that is the New Testament church. So in the New Testament church, which is today, a person's home is still his resume, the way that God sees it. Where does this idea come from? 1 Timothy 3:5 says, for if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? Also take a look with me at Titus chapter 1, verses 6 through 9. Both the letters to Timothy and the letter to Titus are letters that the Apostle Paul wrote to men who were his disciples, Timothy and Titus. And so to Titus, Paul writes this, an elder must live a blameless life. He must be faithful to his wife, and his children must be believers who don't have a reputation for being wild or rebellious. A church leader is a manager of God's household, so he must live a blameless life. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered. He must not be a heavy drinker, violent, or dishonest with money. Rather, he must enjoy having guests in his home, and he must love what is good. He must live wisely and be just. He must live a devout and disciplined life. He must have a strong belief in the trustworthy message he was taught. Then he will be able to encourage others with wholesome teachings and show those who oppose it where they are wrong. From this, we can take that God cares about what happens at home. God places priority on leading well at home. In what we read today, we see that leading well at home qualifies you to lead in the community. What happens at home, it matters to God. And this is where we get into week 2 of our series, Blueprint. Blueprint. Here is the definition that we're building on. A blueprint is an early plan or design that explains how something might be achieved. Over these 4 weeks, our plan is to present vision. We want to invite you into this vision with us, to pray with us, and to be part of the journey. Some of the vision pieces involve construction and building, but not everything. Some of the pieces of this vision will involve calling for resources and finances that we don't have yet, but not everything. But here's what is true about every piece of vision that we are talking about. Every piece of vision that we will talk about will require the right people to be called by God to respond in the right moment. The right people led by God to respond in the right moment. Just to quickly review what we talked about last week. If you were here last week, this will bring you back to one Sunday ago. If you were not here last week, I want to catch you up. So last week we talked about a vision for our location here on Lancaster. We said that the church is the people. The church is the people. The church is not a building, but the building sends a message about the church. And so what message do we want our building to send? And so our blueprint is to improve our Lancaster location. Parts of this building date back to 1977, including the room where you're sitting right now, our sanctuary. Our blueprint is to improve our Lancaster location, to expand the capacity, usability, and safety of our children's areas, to reimagine spaces for teenagers and young adults, to make it easier to move through the building. Where can we make it clear where it's currently confusing? To enhance existing environments, to better cultivate the building of community. And yes, updating some bathrooms along the way. I want you to see a picture of our north doors, which would be kind of out here and to the right. These doors are along a kids area hallway. These doors right now are used during the week as like service doors to bring things in and out, and they're also emergency exits. We believe that we can take a step up with the location of these doors. The vision is to update and improve this area so it's more than just a set of doors. This area becomes a family entrance. A family entrance where we send the message on the outside that this is a place on the inside where we value kids and families. Practically, it brings families right into a place of check-in. By speeding up, by making it more convenient for boys and girls to check in, this means everyone gets more out of the minutes, and we believe they are precious minutes that we get to spend together each week. Right outside the doors that you came in to this sanctuary this morning, right out here in the lobby, on the other side of the walls, if you step out in the lobby, the other side of these walls are kids' spaces, but you would not be able to tell that based on just standing there. We want to take advantage of this gathering space that is a lobby and build it into a hub, or to reimagine it as a hub where everything else breaks off from. We're talking about a plan that brings you right into the kids area, making it very clear and welcoming. This is where the kids area begins. We turn a dead end into a threshold into the next generation. Practically, it gives everyone a much easier passageway from the east end of the building to the west end of the building. The windows that we see on the second story up in the upper left side of this picture, on the other side of those windows is where we envision a reimagined space for our kids and for our teenagers. On the east end of our property, surrounded once again by neighborhood, we have a big field that has enough space for 2 full-size softball diamonds. In fact, there used to be 2 full-size softball fields there. It's been a long time since we had a game of softball back there, but we do continue to use this space for summer adventure day camp outdoor activities, other outdoor and youth activities throughout the year, Ranger Kids, Girls Ministries. Over the years, the field has also been used for soccer practices and soccer games. Take a look at our vision for what this space could be. We want to increase the usability for those who are here and for those who are not here yet. We imagine an all-season, all-weather turf surface field that can be used even in the rainy season. And the Oregon sports family said amen. We think of a playground, an imaginary play space where our leaders can bring kids outside on warm weather days, and a multi-use sport court with basketball hoops and pickleball lines. That's right. If you know, you know. And at the very back, we see a park entrance where there is currently a fence. That's where our neighborhood meets our church property. There's a fence there now. We want to replace that fence with a gateway arch, sending the message to our neighborhood. This is a place we're not trying to keep you out. We want to welcome you in. So, the invitation that I extended last week, and I'm extending to you again today, we want to invite you to take a vision tour with me of the church so we can walk around and we can look at these things together. Many of you have already signed up. We have 5 dates, September 29th, October 2nd, 5th, 13th, and 16th. Wednesday evenings, Sunday evenings, and one Saturday morning. The tour will take about an hour. It's a chance for us to talk together, a chance for me to hear your ideas, as nothing is etched in stone, and we can be on this journey together. So if you've not yet signed up for a tour, I encourage you to take out your smartphone right now and to go to that link and to sign up for a time where we can go on a tour together. The last few minutes has been review, so if you were here last week, you felt like, oh, review. The review part is now over. It's all new starting right now. Back to where we started this morning. At the beginning, God cares about what happens at home. Our vision is to be a Christ-centered community, growing spiritually, thriving households. And so questions like, what can we do as a church to develop spiritually thriving households? What can we do to make healthy homes healthier? What can we do to give a boost to homes that may be struggling today? And perhaps that's you. What can we as a church family do to help children when their home becomes a place of crisis? I want to go through a couple of things with you today, and the first thing is a step that you can take right now. Beginning in just a couple of weeks, we are launching a fresh round of freedom groups. Financial Peace University, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, Grief Share, and Life's Healing Choices. Financial Peace University, maybe you're tired of the tension in your home over money. We know that one of the top things that married couples argue about is money. There has to be a better way. Financial Peace University is a practical, Bible-based way of getting out of debt, saving money, and starting or improving the way that you invest. Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage on Sunday evenings. This is it's a fun class, but it's a practical class where you can talk about the difference between how you and your spouse are, how you're differently wired. Maybe you thought, why does she think this way? Why does he think that way? Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage is a way to strengthen your marriage. You can sign up for any one of these groups right away, by the way, if you use that QR code that's on the screen. Grief Share is a Christ-centered class where healing from a loss of a loved one is a journey. We know that every path of grieving is different. Not every path is the same. Well, every path of grieving is different. You do not have to go through it alone, and that's why Grief Share exists. And Life's Healing Choices on Wednesday evenings is designed to help you find freedom from hurts, hang-ups, and habits, any life-controlling issue, any life-controlling challenge that is weighing you down and holding you back from all that God has created you to be. Jesus himself said, I've come to set the captive free. And if there's some habit or hurt that is holding you captive, we believe there is a better way. There is freedom on the other side. And this group is a way to find that freedom. I read the story of a woman named Terry. Terry's grandson was a toddler, just 2 years old, when he died in the year 2020. Imagine the heartbreak of this grandmother. Terry says, though things were an emotionally raw blur, and perhaps that's a phrase that you would describe what you're walking through, an emotionally raw blur. She says, it felt like the timing was right to participate. Going to Grief Share gave me a reason to get out of the house. She says, the hardest part was just showing up. As it says in 1 Peter, cast all your cares and anxieties on Jesus. He alone has the power to help you walk through this dark period of your life. Terry says, remember this, there's no pressure or obligation to share your story, and everything is kept confidential. It's a very safe and warm place to experience support on the grieving journey. She says, my life has been transformed from a person who thought my purpose in life was over because I was no longer a grandmother. She says, I'm now a person vitally experiencing all the good things God has in store for me to do in this world, especially serving the body of Christ. And so 4 years on now, after losing her grandson, Terry is now a Grief Share facilitator where she is leading others in the path of walking the journey of grieving with others. These freedom groups are starting at the end of this month and the first week of October. We have kids' activities during these sessions to help equip you to participate. Sometimes we see a group like this and we think, oh, those are for people who need help. And I don't want to admit that I need help, so I'm not going to go. I want you to think of this a different way. These are groups for people who want healthier homes. These are groups these are groups for people who want their households to be healthier. If you think about it, if you're a member of a fitness center or a gym, or if you drive by a fitness center or a gym and you see the people who are going in, you don't think, oh, those are people who are going in because they need help. You think those are people who are going in because they want to be healthier. That is the culture that we want to build around these groups. These are groups for people who are saying the status quo, it doesn't have to be this way. I want healthier for my household, so I'm going to step out. Husbands, you're saying, I'm going to lead my wife, and we're going to go to this together because the way that it is now is not the way that it has to remain. So I encourage you to take advantage and to step into one of these groups this fall. So freedom groups are starting in about 2 weeks. Now I want to give you a couple of blueprints for where we believe God is leading us in the next few months. Proverbs 22:6 says, direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. Or maybe your translation says they will not depart from it. Jennifer and I are walking the journey of desiring to do our best for our 4 kids who are ages 12, 10, 8, and 4. And I always feel like I get that right until one of them has a birthday, and then I have to relearn. 12, 10, 8, and 4, though, right now. We have an almost 5-year-old. When we got married, we both had full-time jobs. And in some ways, those were the glory days. Because we had 2 full-time incomes, and we went down to 1 set of bills. We went from two full-time incomes, 1 set of bills. Then in the years that have followed, we went from 1 child to 2 children to 3 children to 4 children. We went from 2 full-times to 1 full-time, 1 part-time. Jennifer then worked at home. We previously lived very close to Jennifer's parents, and there were grandma and grandpa days weekly. All of our kids have done preschools. This will be our last year of preschool, as our youngest is about ready to graduate to kindergarten. Sometimes people ask us, are we going to have more? And our answer is that our heart is now full. I'm sharing this with you to say we've done all of the different varieties of what it looks like to both be raising our children and also whenever and in different ways lean on the support of community. I will also tell you that last year when we had the last day of preschool, we felt, we felt old because we were the ones who had multiple children, and it was our youngest having the last day of preschool. Some of you who have had multiples, like you have walked through this, like when your youngest is finishing preschool and you're in the neighborhood of age 40 and there's parents there who are like in their early 20s. And you feel like they're looking at you like, is your grandchild finishing preschool today? We're just the ones that didn't stop. Some families You do it all on your own. Many families, you're looking for outside support in raising sons and daughters. What we know to be true across the state of Oregon is true in Salem. It's true right here in the neighborhood where the church is located. There is a shortage of quality preschools. Oregon Department of Human Services says 2 out of 5 Oregon families report a parent not taking a job or greatly changing a job because of difficulty finding childcare the previous year. So combine that need that we are aware of, and if you are living that journey right now of trying to find a preschool, you know it. Combine that need with the reality that we have a great campus here in this church that has a lot of great space where a lot of it is designed for kids, and a lot of that space goes underutilized many days each week. So our blueprint is to open a preschool and after-school program that supports hardworking parents with quality, affordable, faith-based care and education. Now, once upon a time, we did have a daycare here. It was called Little People's. Little People's came and went, and we are now looking for the 2024-2025 version of providing quality preschool and after-school care for our kids. I found online this Reddit question and answer thread. One person wrote on Reddit this question looking for advice. Looking into preschool options for my kiddo, and my husband thinks we should not even consider the preschool in the church down the street from us because we are not religious. But I kind of like the director there, the proximity and the schedule. And then her question, are there any non-religious parents out there who have put their kids in a church-based school? Here are a couple of the answers. My son went to a church preschool. It was very professional with career teachers and independent governance. During the main program, it was very Santa, Easter Bunny for Christian holidays, no Jesus or religious education. I would see the occasional church-themed coloring page. I asked my 3-year-old if they ever talked about God or church at the school, and he said no. Another person writes, my son goes to a Methodist preschool. There really isn't any religious education. They have chapel once a month, which is basically just them singing kid-friendly songs. I want to make it clear to our church family, we are not interested in operating a almost secular preschool that just happens to meet in the church. We are committed to launching a preschool that is centered on Christ in values, centered on Christ in education, centered on Christ in leadership, and centered on Christ in mission. We have a heart to support families and households. We want to strengthen parents. We want to ultimately encourage family life, and we believe that the way to do that is not by setting Jesus aside, but by keeping Christ at the center of all that we do. So, I know this because I've talked to some of you, and you've been trying to find the right preschool, the right daycare, the right after-school program for your elementary school age kids. And you are right now thinking, can we open this thing on Monday? Like, it's a real need for, I know, many. There's a lot that we need to pull together between now and when we open this, and so our plan is to open this in early 2025. And at the end of the message today, I'll give you a QR code where you can go to a link and let us know if you want to be alerted when registration opens, you want to be alerted to updates, and maybe you're interested in working at the preschool. You can sign up so that as soon as employment opportunities open up, that you can be the first to know. As we have this conversation about serving families and strengthening families, we are also aware of the most vulnerable. There are children who are separated from their homes as a result of violence in their homes, neglect, sexual abuse, threats in the home, or for other reasons. And you may be even in this room today, and if you were to tell us your life story, that there's some version of that would be woven in, where you were separated from your biological family because of some sort of abuse or neglect that was happening in the home. James chapter 1 verse 27 says, pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. Now, we don't use the word orphan really in this country, but the reality is there are many children, many boys and girls who, for whatever reason, are not under the care of their biological parents, and there are many boys and girls who are looking for their forever homes. There's an organization called Every Child Oregon, and Every Child Oregon tells the story of a girl named Annie, an elementary school age girl. She had been moved from one foster care home to another. There was potential for an adoption, but it did not work out. Adding to the trauma, she's been separated from her biological siblings. And when the wildfires happened in Oregon in the year 2020, Annie had to run for her life as the fire approached the home where she was living. In our state, in our county, the details are different for each one, but there are many boys and girls who have a story like Annie. In 2022, an average of 5,222 children were in foster care daily in Oregon. A total of 7,727 children spent at least one day in some kind of foster care. Now, praise God, at last word, Annie and her biological brother were in the final stages of being adopted into a forever home. And church, we believe in more outcomes like that for children like Annie. So our blueprint is to create a path to engage in foster care, adoption, and supporting families who are participating in foster care and adoption. See, we believe that there are many who have a heart in some way to get involved in foster care or adoption, but when words like foster care or adoption are spoken, what you hear is bureaucracy. Like, I don't even know where I would start. So where we believe the church can come alongside is we can help create a clear path, help to make it easier for those who are willing to at least explore the option of a yes. So what we're doing right now is we're working on developing a structure that makes the path easier and clearer for families who want to start fostering or who are at least interested in finding out what it means to become a family that adopts. We are having fruitful, constructive conversations, building connections with the Oregon Department of Human Services, understanding how child placement works. And sometimes when we use an acronym talking about a big government organization like ODHS, what we have found is that there are people that we believe God has strategically placed on the inside of these organizations who are waiting for churches to stand up and say, we will be part of the solution. One of our 7 core values is to pursue risks by faith. Pursue risks by faith to reach the lost and achieve our God-given purposes. Stepping into a group that will strengthen your marriage, stepping into a group that will strengthen your parenting, working through grieving, overcoming a life-controlling issue or a habit, taking a step into one of these groups, as Terry said in her testimony, that's a step of faith. Sometimes the hardest part is just showing up for the first time. Opening a Christ-centered preschool in a secular culture, it's a step of faith. Believing that there are households in our church who will say yes to foster care, adoption, or supporting families in foster care and adoption, it's a step of faith. None of what we have talked about is the easy way. They are all steps of faith. We are willing to, by faith, follow God's footsteps in this because healing, restoration, and transformation happens on the other side of a step of faith. So we are simply asking our church family, are you willing? Are you open to a step of faith? If on the other side of that step of faith is healing, restoration, or transformation in your life, in the life of someone you love, or possibly even someone you have never even met. So here are some practical takeaways for today. What can you do today? If something about that preschool resonates with your heart, as we said, the call to action, every one of our vision pieces, our blueprint pieces, every one begins with this call to action. Pray and seek God for how he is leading you to personally be involved. Pray and seek God for how he is leading you to be personally involved. Then practically, you can sign up to receive updates on enrollment and opening. You can sign up to receive updates on employment opportunities. And also, we will need, between now and when we open the preschool, about $100,000 to purchase playground equipment and make a few renovations around the building to bring the building up to a place where it is ready to serve preschoolers daily. For foster and adopt, once again, the first action step, pray and seek God for how he is leading you to personally be involved. By faith, we believe that there are households that are in this church family, and God may already be stirring in you to respond to foster and adoption. And if God is already stirring that in you, we want to come alongside you so that you can find the answers that you're looking for. You can sign up to receive updates on our upcoming Foster, Adopt, and Support launch, which will be also in early 2025. And also, after both of our gatherings that have already happened this morning, the one that starts at 8:30 and the one that starts at 10, people have come up to me in the altar after the gatherings and said, you know what, adoption is part of my story. Growing up in foster care is part of my story. And we know we have families who are part of this church that you are already involved. If you are already involved, or if foster care or adoption is already part of your life story in some way, we just want to know that you're part of the church family. And so after this gathering is done in here, right out these doors, there is a great big table set up with a big banner that says Foster and Adopt. And if this resonates with your heart or with your life at all, we have some other families that are also involved, and they simply would like to meet you today. And by the way, they have Reese's peanut butter cups there, if that wasn't enough. Free, they're free.